High in the Himalayas, researchers reached a hidden community of monks who had been cut off from the modern world for decades. They expected hardship and aging bodies. Instead, they found men in perfect condition. No signs of weakness, no signs of illness. Their diet, daily practices, and way of life shocked experts who were allowed to study them up close. What they saw wasn't rumor or legend. It was real, documented, and unlike anything they had witnessed before.
Buddha was understood as a human that gives every human practitioner access to the same level of ability and enlightenment. However, he also took on some magical powers.
You have power of levitation.
How is he doing that?
Mysterious Himalayan monks step into the most mysterious parts of the Himalayas, and you might just see a line of frail figures wrapped in furs, chanting into a sky so cold it seems to crackle. Some of these monks have lived in such places for generations, and some might have actually lived since the last ice age. Whether literal or mythic, scientists continue to measure why they have found monks in the Himalayas in perfect condition. Disciplined practitioners of Ji Tummo, a specialized Himalayan breathing and meditative practice, can change their bodies in startling ways. In fieldwork by Harvard scientists in the 1980s, they discovered that monks were able to raise their temperatures in their fingers and toes due to these strange practices, and later experiments reported increases that are large enough to astonish visiting researchers. Beyond warmth, these monks surprised researchers with metabolic changes. In controlled observations, some meditation states were actually accompanied by dramatic reductions in oxygen consumption. This shows that the monks had the ability to slow metabolism without losing their consciousness. When they were in chilly rooms, these monks could stay relaxed even if they were cold with wet sheets that were draped over them. With their special form of meditation, they could steam the wet sheets and cause them to be dry, even in a cold and wet environment. In fact, the influence of these mysterious monks might spread to their communities. Researchers also discovered that older family members who lived with monks passed away less, showing that this monastic presence could actually affect longevity. But that's not the strangest part of these Himalayan monks. Researchers traveling around the world discovered shocking news about monks, starting with the one in Mongolia who has lived for over 200 years. The 200-year-old Mongolian monk, they called him alive but dead. This 200-year-old Mongolian monk was a mummified figure found sitting upright in lotus posture in a Mongolian dwelling, swaddled in hide. Local monks revealed that the body was about 2 centuries old, and not simply preserved, but in tukdam, which is a deep, post-mortem meditative state recognized in Tibetan Buddhist traditions as the residue of advanced realization. Tukdam is the name used to describe a rare, sustained clarity of mind that persists even after clinical death. Monks have described these symptoms of tukdam, including undiminished sitting posture, lack of decay for an unusual interval, and subtle lights. Scientists and clinicians have been studying tukdam, but they're still yet to fully understand what it truly is. This is a phenomenon that challenges early biomedical categorization while urging rigorous observation and respect for local interpretation. Many have linked the Mongolian discovery of the sleeping monk to older hagiographies of the rainbow body, an elevation in Dzogchen, where practitioners actually dissolve their gross bodies into light at death, sometimes leaving behind hair and nails. The rainbow body can be found in more multiple Tibetan doctrinal accounts than by actual scientists, so it's hard for many to believe that this is even real. The dramatic image showed a centuries-old monk seated as if in meditation, and local lamas have framed the event as spiritual attainment rather than simple mummification. Follow-up scientific testing like radiocarbon dating, histology, and controlled observation was not revealed in the media, so many are asking questions. Did scientists actually test this strange monk, Or did they leave him there to continue his practice of tukdam? Well, when scientists took him in, they discovered that there were no signs of life and that he had passed away. The monk was mummified and must have passed away during meditation, but still looked alive because of the natural conditions of the area where it was found. This wasn't all, as some scientists also found a Thai monk that had lived for up to 109 years. The 109-year-old Thai monk Luang Po Yai quickly became a global sensation when his photos spread on social media. Videos of a frail, kindly-looking Thai monk being cared for by relatives racked up millions of views, and many started to wonder what his age was and why he lived that long. It started with some normal posts, but then many wondered what his age was. Some insisted he was 163, others 209, and a few also said that he was 399. But it was later revealed that he was 109 years old when he passed away in March 2022. This was surprising to many, and the social media audiences quickly turned this into a myth. Despite his extreme age, he was in good health, although he was blind and had poor hearing. Many began to question how he had lived that long, and some claims have also linked him to self-mummification, a Japanese practice, but this is a false narrative. His old age was attributed to a naturally long life, although many sources have mentioned that he never got sick for many years. But till this day, we don't know the secret to his longevity. Many suspect that this is connected to his practice as a Buddhist monk. The respected Buddhist monk in Thailand became deaf and blind in later years and became bedridden after a fall. Some confused him with Luang Pho Daeng, another monk who passed away in 1973. Luang Pho Daeng's body was preserved through self-mummification using a strict diet and meditation, and his body remains on display at the Wat Kunaram Temple at Koh Samui as a source of spiritual inspiration. Also known as Sokushinbutsu, this Japanese Buddhist practice occurs where the monk endures extreme asceticism, including a restrictive diet and intense meditation, to preserve their bodies after death. The goal is to achieve spiritual enlightenment and to be revered as a Buddha in their very body. Luang Pho Yai must have lived long because of his healthy lifestyle, as expected from a Buddhist monk. His life involved a simple diet, physical activity, community support, and avoiding unhealthy habits. All of these contributed to his longer lifespan, especially meditation. While Luang Pho Yai simply had a long life, researchers have found monks in the Himalayas with unique abilities that question all we know about the current world. Thailand monk with supernatural displays. One of the most famous miracle monks in Thai lore is Luang Pu Thuat, who was believed to have lived in the 16th to 17th centuries. Legend has it that he could walk on water and even turn seawater into fresh water. This story has inspired a lot of devotion. Many Thai Buddhists revere him and visit Wat Phako in Songkhla to pay respects, but of course there's no proof about this supernatural display. But some modern claims have been investigated by many researchers. One of these is about a monk who was performing some magical tricks. Some monks also conducted public fire-breathing demonstrations, which religious authorities later asked them to stop. In these cases, after researchers looked into the situations, they found that the monks themselves have said the tricks don't require any supernatural ability. The world was also paying attention to a monk who had climbed a steep hillside barefoot, while the tourists nearby were using ropes. Many were shocked, as it seemed like he had spiritual discipline and extraordinary strength. This was done by a monk in Laos, and although others were using ropes, the monk walked up barefooted with ease. If you ask the locals, they tell you that this monk was exerting extraordinary strength born from spiritual practice. But scientists are still questioning this and say that this doesn't exactly prove supernatural power. The monk has been walking that route for years and conditioned his feet. This video revealed the monk's dedication and spiritual discipline For Buddhist monks, walking barefoot is a practice that promotes mindfulness and detachment from material possessions, symbolizing a simple life that's grounded in the present moment. Experts have been investigating these monks with magical powers, but they say that it seems more like performance than spiritual miracle. Investigators have looked into monasteries where monks sit calmly in hot oil vats and claim that they offer spiritual resilience. But these experts say that these objects are just normal and don't actually hold divine power. Do you think these are supernatural or just tricks? Well, experts are questioning the 1,000-year-old mummified Chinese monk. 1,000-year-old mummified monk, deep within a gilded Buddha statue, researchers uncovered a secret that was almost too strange to believe. The mummified remains of a Chinese monk, which were actually 1,000 years old, were sitting in lotus posture and encased in a Buddha statue. Scientific imaging, like CT scans, revealed what lay inside the statue. It wasn't just a skeleton, but skin, muscle tissue, and a preserved body that appears to have undergone an extreme form of self-mummification. Scientists have identified the monk as Lu Quan, a master of the Chinese meditation school who is believed to have died around 1100 AD. Radiocarbon dating supports this and places his life in the 11th or 12th century. To make things even more mysterious, an endoscopic examination inside his chest and abdominal cavities revealed that his organs had been removed, replaced instead with tiny scraps of paper and ancient Chinese script. Many suspect that Li Quan might have actually mummified himself deliberately through a painful and agonizing ritual. Over years, he followed a harsh, reducing diet designed to strip away body fat, eating first only nuts and seeds and then roots and bark. After that, he drank a toxic tea made from lacquer tree sap, likely to dehydrate him and discourage decay. In the final stage, he apparently sealed himself in a small tomb in lotus position, supported by a breathing tube and a bell. As long as he rang the bell daily, they assumed that he was alive. But when the bell stopped, the chest tube was removed and the tomb was permanently sealed. After his death, his remains were eventually placed inside the Buddha statue, perhaps centuries later. Some sources say he might have even sat in his monastery for some 200 years before he was moved into the statue. The statue was later acquired by a private collector and ended up in the Netherlands. It was going to be restored in 1996, only for the restorer to realize that there was something odd under the pillows beneath its knees. The discovery provides insights into a rare but real tradition of self-mummification. Although we don't know why Li Quan did this to himself, we know about another Buddhist from Vietnam who protested in the most painful way. Thich Quang Duc was a Vietnamese Mahayana Buddhist monk whose act of self-immolation on June 11, 1963, became one of the most searing and enduring symbols of political and spiritual protest in the 20th century. He was deeply committed to his monastic life and rose to prominence during a turbulent period in South Vietnam. At the time, the South Vietnamese government, under President Ngo Dinh Diem, was widely criticized for his persecution of Buddhists. That persecution sparked what came to be known as the Buddhist Crisis, a campaign of civil disobedience, protests, and dramatic sacrifice. On the morning of his self-immolation, Thich Quang Duc emerged from a circle of hundreds of monks in Saigon, calmly seated himself in a lotus posture in the middle of a busy intersection, and allowed gasoline to be poured over him. As the flames were lit, fellow monks surrounded him, forming a protective ring that prevented anyone from extinguishing the fire. Despite the horror around him, Quang Duc remained entirely composed, chanting sutras as the body burned. A photograph taken by journalist Malcolm Brown captured the moment with devastating clarity. That image went global, shocking public opinion and drawing intense international scrutiny to Diem's regime. The impact was widespread. Quang Duc's act galvanized both Buddhist and secular critics and helped catalyze mounting opposition that would contribute to the overthrow of Diem later that year. In a farewell letter titled The Heart of Prayer, Quang Duc addressed President Diem directly, pleading for religious tolerance and an end to the suffering of his community. At his death, his remains were cremated, but many say that his heart was found intact and transformed into a relic. This must have been a symbol of compassion and spiritual resolve. For many Buddhists, Quang Duc is remembered as a bodhisattva. He was someone who sacrificed himself not out of despair, but as a deeply conscious, compassionate act. His self-immolation has since inspired other acts of protest, influencing debates over martyrdom, political resistance, and the role of spiritual sacrifice. While some monks live long and others immortalize themselves through strange practices, there's a set of monks that can do things you've only seen in movies. Shaolin monks. Shaolin monks have long captured the attention of the world as spiritual practitioners and masters of physical and mental discipline. Through decades of rigorous training, they achieve feats that are strange, like breaking steel bars, performing one-finger handstands, and hardening the bodies in astonishing ways. Their practice is rooted in a blend of Chan Buddhism and internal energy cultivation, especially through Qigong and traditional exercises like the Yijin Jing. This ancient manual describes how to transform sinews and tendons, refine breath, and cultivate qi, the internal life force. Over years, Shaolin practitioners condition their bodies through repetitive, painful exercises like striking trees with their fingers to form deep grooves and slowly removing rusted nails one finger at a time to build raw strength and precision. One of the legendary acts is known as the diamond finger, in which a monk performs a full handstand on a single index finger. Monk Haidong is often cited as a master of this technique, and even displayed the one-finger handstand at 90 years old. Another related practice is called the one finger of Chan meditation, and involves focusing meditative energy through a single finger. After decades of disciplined training, one monk, Shihei Zi, mastered the ability to influence objects, like making a suspended weight swing without touching it or extinguishing a candle flame through a glass shade. The Shaolin monks also have body-hardening methods that go beyond delicate balance and finger strength. Although techniques like iron shirt training are used, monks reinforce their torsos by subjecting them to repeated impacts. They may sleep on hard surfaces, wrap their bodies, and be struck with hammers or even iron, all while channeling qi to absorb and resist trauma. Their skulls and heads are likewise conditioned. By repeatedly banging their heads against walls or each other, they apparently build bone density and a tolerance for impact. These Shaolin monks can withstand extraordinary pain and even break steel rods or sharp objects against their bodies. These acts might seem like spectacles, but many are grounded in centuries-old training, discipline, and mastery of breath, posture, and mental focus. Although the Shaolin monks focus on martial arts, another set of monks have unique forms of healing. Tibetan monks healing. Tibetan monks and healers are often associated with the long-standing tradition of healing, sometimes rooted in both medical science and what many consider spiritual or energetic work. At the heart of this is Tibetan medicine, also known as Sowa Rigpa, which is deeply intertwined with Buddhist thought. Rather than simply prescribing herbs, Tibetan medical practitioners diagnose illness through a holistic framework. They observe the patient's skin, tongue, and eyes, analyze their urine, press the pulse in very precise ways with 3 middle fingers at the radial artery, and ask detailed questions about diet, behavior, and mental state. The healing system doesn't just treat symptoms, but frames illness as an imbalance in elemental energies, and healing involves restoring harmony through customized herbal formulas, lifestyle changes, and spiritual practices, all rooted in Buddhist ethics. For instance, healing is not just about the body. The mind is seen as central to both disease and cure. From a Buddhist perspective, suffering arises from the mind's patterns, and healing involves transforming those mental imprints. Beyond formal medicine, there are reports of Tibetan monastics who perform what might be called energetic healing. One respected figure is Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche, a Gelug Lama known for healing activities and many actions of powerful magic, including reportedly curing ailments and influencing weather. Another dimension of healing comes through Buddhist meditation practices themselves. Practices like Tonglen, where a practitioner breathes in others' suffering and sends out compassion, are taught as methods for healing both others and oneself. Meanwhile, yogic disciplines like Tsalung, which train practitioners in manipulating subtle energies, are also part of Tibetan internal practices that some believe support healing and vitality. Although researchers have found monks in the Himalayas in perfect condition, there are many things that are hard to explain, like reincarnation. Recognized monk reincarnations. In Tibetan Buddhism, certain highly respected spiritual leaders are recognized as tulkus. This means believed reincarnations of past masters, identified young through a mix of oracles, tests, and signs. One such figure is Tulku Lobsang Rinpoche, who was recognized at age 13 as the 8th incarnation of the Nyense Lama. According to his biography, an oracle confirmed his speech reincarnation, meaning he inherited the teaching and communicative qualities of his predecessor. He has since become well-known globally, teaching in the West, and remains rooted deeply in traditional Tibetan Buddhist training, including medicine and astrology. Another example is Lodro Chokyi Nyima, recognized in 1996 as the 4th reincarnation of Jamgon Kongtrul, with his recognition confirmed by high figures such as the 14th Dalai Lama and the 17th Karmapa. His recognition illustrates how these reincarnation lineages are preserved across generations, carrying forward spiritual roles rather than familial descent. In addition, Tenzin Tsetan Rinpoche was enthroned as the reincarnation of Geshe Lobsang Gyatso, founder of the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. When the previous Geshe Gyatso passed in 1997, he was eventually succeeded by this young boy, formally recognized by the Dalai Lama. Ever since they found monks in the Himalayas in perfect condition, there has been renewed interest in them and their strange practices. From the strange monks who can perform magic and those who live for many years to those practicing self-mummification, martial arts, and strange healing, what do you think is real and what is false? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.